So it's Saturday. Hello, everybody. So I'd forgotten, and thank you, Francesca, for reminding me that it's Saturday. So I'm a little bit late for a meditation, but hopefully you're still some of you there. So I had a thought about what we might do today. This is a time when there's huge transitions going on many, many different levels. Um, And as you know, we've talked about this before. Transitions are always about a change of paradigms, change of beliefs, and change of consciousness. Um, and when there's fear involved, then we're going to resist. And it's natural. Humans are built into our DNA with fear. And it's because of whatever we've experienced in the collective history of humanity, which separates us from source, which keeps us in the illusion of duality and loss of control. So, hey Mahalakshmi, hey Shan. So what we and the biggest of these transitions is from our human experience is death, and so this is a time when many people are facing their own death or the death of a close one, or have faced it in the past and have had to go through a grieving process, a confusing process, um, feeling displaced, feeling disconnected, feeling betrayed sometimes. Um, and it's because we don't really understand this passage called death. If we look at the big picture, if we look at our consciousness as it exists beyond time, beyond space, this incarnation is just one little tiny spark in this great tapestry of life. Um, and life isn't about incarnating within a body, life is just self existing, constantly creative growth and constant change. And whether or not we're in the physical body or traveling in astral bodies or reincarnating back in physical form on this planet or other planets, you know, that's the picture in which we experience ourselves as alive. And if we can bring that experience of aliveness into an incarnation, that perspective of fullness into our limited ideas of who we are, that brings so much joy, so much fulfillment, so much beauty, so much peace into our um, daily life. So, someone asked me, there was an email this morning about, I was in this state of enlightenment and then I lost it. You don't lose who you are. You lose states. States change, but who you are never does. And the idea that you're somehow gaining or becoming enlightened is just such a travesty, because who you are is who you've always been, who you always be. And it's growth in that movement of self that evolution is all about, that our dance of creation is all about. So, given the fact that there's so much fear around death, and especially for those who are in the last phases of life, going through the passage, feeling regrets, feeling loss, feeling guilt, feeling attachments that they're not ready to let go of. How can we support that? Especially when there's so much fear and attachment that they can't think. And the faculty for thought has faded. And all the experience is simply that great fear that just consumes everything. Um, so, one thing that Sri Aurobindo and the mother were working with in their time here on this planet as avatars was to build passageways between the worlds, between the physical and the supramental, between this life and the afterlife, and many dimensions of the afterlife. If we assume that we are locked up in this tiny body, in this tiny physical time space reality, we've lost perspective and we've lost um, our ability to be in mastery. So these passageways are really important. If we can learn to travel back and forth, even while we are in this physical incarnation, then the fear around death vanishes. So the shamans know this. They've never been afraid because they've been able to go back and forth across dimensions, and so they understand that this is not the only dimension there is. So what we can support the collective consciousness of humanity is to build these passageways between the worlds strongly enough that anybody can travel back and forth freely and fearlessly. That this becomes part of their experience of life, not just an experience of fear and dread around this idea of death. So, what if we can, go into these sublime states while we are sleeping and become aware of that as in a lucid dream? What if we can wake up from these dreams and know that this is not a dream, it's simply another world that we are visiting in preparation for a passage that we'll make at some point? Um, so these passages, um, when they can become available to people in regular states, in regular life, it's not just something for shamans and mystics. This can really ease our experience, our ability to experience beauty and truth and mastery on this earth. How would our lives be different if we were not locked up in fear? If you're not um, giving credence to um, limits, many different kinds of limitations that we impose on ourselves. What if we were not placing ourselves in the perspective of being a victim of circumstances, a victim of, of someone else's ability to control our lives? That would change things. And once these passageways are built, then we know ourselves as we are, unlimited, creative, powerful, um, wise, and beautiful, loving beings. So, what I'd like to do for the meditation today is maybe build these passages stronger. So, I'm just looking at the chat here. Hello, everybody. Third Coast. That's an intriguing name there. Gloria, Paula, Karen, Yafa, Samantha, and Snyder. So, welcome, a couple of you. I'm seeing for the first time, so wonderful. There's a question from Third Coast. Are you familiar with Rudolf Steiner? Yes. He has some incredible information about the journeys between death and rebirth, as well as overall information about so much. He is an amazing seer, and yes, he's got books about these journeys into other worlds and describes these worlds in quite some detail. They're literal um, homes that we travel back and forth. So on this earth, it's like traveling from India to Brazil. Um, there's a, you take a flight, you're there in a few hours, and then you enter into a completely different reality. The landscape is different, the culture, the people, everything is fresh and alive, and that's how it is when we travel to these different realms. It's just that we have taken this one too much for granted and lost the freshness of what it means to be multidimensional. So, yes, if anyone would like to follow up, please do check out Rudolf Steiner. Um, you might be familiar with the Waldorf educational system that was founded by Rudolf Steiner. He was also into biodynamics and a lot of different um, things that support our greater wellness as a society. So he wasn't just a spiritual seer; he was also a proponent of a beautiful, vast new cultural paradigm. Maria, hey, ciao. All right, so let's do some work with these passageways. And when I'm talking about building these passageways, um, they're there. They've been established. The more people travel along these passageways, the more deeply established they become. So it's like you're walking into the forest, and there's a grass trail, a deer trail, and you walk down that trail, and it gets wider, and the more people that walk down that trail, it becomes a path that anybody can find and follow. And it's the same thing, we've got billions of people on this planet right now, and all of them um, are going to take that trail at some point. Everyone who's ever been here in the past has taken that trail at some point. And I'm not counting some very special individuals that have managed to transform the physical body into a light body, but that's um, that's a different story. There's absolutely no fear involved there, but the association that people have made with death is fear, the grim reaper. Whereas instead, the angel of death, as many people have experienced, is the most beautiful of all, simply because this angel needs to convince those who are moving through this tunnel that there's nothing to fear. So, this passageway, the more we can widen this, the more we can stabilize this, the easier it becomes for people to not just use this once during their life at the moment of physical death, but to also go back and forth in a safe and harmonious, adventurous way. Um, it's an opening into a multi-dimensionality, and it's not just the shamans who can learn how to do this. And it has to do with DMT in the pineal gland. So if you can um, clean out the pineal gland as best you can, there's different ways to do this. That helps. Aoife, Lorna, RD, wonderful, welcome. So for those of you who are just joining, we're talking about building passageways between the worlds. And the way we're going to do this is just call on those who know, those who are the builders and the path keepers. So the trailblazers, the dream walkers, those whose role has been to walk people across the ferryman, like Charon in the Greek mythologies. And these are magnificent beings. They're helpers, they're guides. They're here to support our multidimensionality. They're here to ferry our consciousness from one world into another. And they're doorkeepers. So we're calling them in now. So we call in the dreamwalkers, the archangels. We call in the doorkeepers in different traditions. In the Buddhist tradition, it's the dwellers of the threshold. They're the ones who are the keepers of the bardos. You cannot pass through without confronting them, and they'll question you to see if you're ready. And what does readiness mean? It means the willingness to let go of attachments, attachments to the past, attachments to a belief system about who you are, anything that holds us back from fullness and mastery. So these doorkeepers are the ones who test us. In the Egyptian tradition, there's the metaphor of the as you pass into the underworld, you meet Anubis, and he has these scales. And on one side of the scale is a feather, on the other side is your heart. And if your heart is lighter than a feather, you walk through. And what does that mean? We take ourselves lightly. We're not holding on the attachments, the weight, the burden of the past. No guilt, no shame, no fear. And we're simply ready to move on with joy. So it's nothing to do with how good you've been or how bad you are. And once you cross the threshold of duality, there's no good or bad. There's no positive and negative in the way we have been trained or conditioned. That's the greatest obstacle to walking across this bridge. So RD is asking, bridges between worlds here or to the other side? Okay, I'll respond to that. Meanwhile, Sean, I've come to know Azrael as the angel of death. I perceive him, as a being of starlight and clear light. Some see her as white light, also known as Anubis in ancient Egypt. Absolutely beautiful, Sean. Azrael is the most beautiful of the angels in the Judaic, Islamic, as well as Christian traditions. The angel is depicted, the the death's the fellow who comes around with the scythe and death's head. It's such a fearful image. It's such a gruesome image, and no wonder it strikes fear into people's hearts. If you see Azrael as this beautiful angel of starlight fetching us to take us home, it's such a different story. Anubis was. Yeah, thank you for making that correlation. And so, yes, RD, this is a bridge between this world and an afterworld, but it's not separate from this world. We think that these worlds are separate as if, they're like oil over water. But there's a bleed through. We actually can multidimensionally experience these worlds in physical incarnation. And this is what we're practicing as mystics, as shamans, as dreamers. So, and this is what we're building. The more we can walk back and forth across these bridges, they become set, they become stable, they become available to all. And then, in the midst of our fears, as people go through this passageway, this world comes through because it's real. These worlds are all real. So these bridges simply appear to be bridges from our side of the veil. From others, that's, from beyond the veil, they're simply interconnected. They're interwoven. Space-time dimensions bleed through each other. They're not so isolated from each other. They just appear to be isolated because we experience ourselves as separate from the world. There's an inside and there's an outside. And I'm inside this body, and outside is the rest of the universe. And that's a false illusion. I am not inside this body. This body is inside me. The universe is inside me. And once we really get that, then these bridges become totally visible to all. And that's what we're achieving. We're building these bridges that are so bright, luminescent, and self-existing that there's no doubt anymore. There's no fear anymore. Many of you have walked people across this bridge. Many of them are in terror, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what religions have taught about hell, associated with guilt and shame and unworthiness. None of that is real once you're on the other side. Once people have walked across this bridge, all those guilt, shames, the unworthiness, those senses no longer exist. It's not that there's not something to learn, but that learning comes in a way that's natural to the soul, not to be fed with so much crap. So just talking about this, just putting our attention there is creating these bridges. So whom are we inviting to support us, to help us? The avatars, the doorkeepers, the ascended masters, the galactic families, the ones who know how to go back and forth, shamans in every culture, mystics and dreamers across the world, in every time and space. They are here to support us, they're here to help us. They're here to hold a space where we can learn and help ourselves. All those of us who are here incarnate in this body, who are no longer trapped in the illusion of separation, are also part of this team. We're all helping to create these bridges, these passages. So we're invoking now for safe, clear, and smooth passages for all of humanity as we pass through this last and final barrier between the worlds. Feel the presence here. The angelic, archangelic kingdoms, those within the elemental kingdoms who are also doorkeepers, the plants, medicinal plants that are doorkeepers, various rocks and minerals that are multi-dimensional. You can enter into a space inside them where the doors open by themselves. You can jump into the heart of a stone, of a flower, and discover eternity without borders. Everything in nature has the power to take us outside of this veil of separation, because it's only humans in our conditioned illusion where we have cut ourselves off in this illusion of separation. It's not real, so why pretend that it is? So we ask for these doorways to open ever more fully. And start with opening that doorway above the bubble, the door to the upper world. Invite that clear white light, the electrical impulse, the intelligence of the primordial one pouring through our bodies, pouring through this planet, pouring through our collective consciousness as humans, pouring through all the kingdoms of this earth, pouring down into the earth. And then the response from the heart of the mother, magnetic energies of love, unconditional acceptance, beauty, and wisdom that nourish us, that nurture a sense of who we are, our knowingness, deep courage, and trust. So as these waves of magnetic force move up from the earth, as these waves of electrical force move down from the heavens, together it builds this rainbow bridge between earth and sky. But then each one of us personally, individually, and within the collective of humanity. I don't need to ask to build this bridge for other species. They don't need it. They already know. They don't experience separation. They don't experience fear. There's humans that have been trapped in this illusion because of the overdevelopment of the rational mind. And as we build this rainbow bridge, we are connecting up different levels of the mind, merging that with the heart, connecting that to the heart of the earth. And so all fear drops away. If you know anybody who is going through this passage we call death, invite them into this conversation on a soul level. Just hold this doorway for them. For humanity as a collective going through this transition from one world age to another, which is also something Rudolf Steiner spoke much about. We hold this for all humanity, so our journey can be smooth, easy, and joyful. So we can support Mother Earth in her journey rather than hindering her out of a sense of falseness, greed. We've been taking and taking and taking, and that doesn't serve, it doesn't support the laws of the universe. No wonder we feel so pathetic. Underneath all that, There's an etheric crystal at the heart of the earth, and this is connected with the etheric crystal beneath Uluru and the technology known as the magic box. And this etheric crystal at the center of the earth holds a power to open these doorways in a way that's unprecedented. And we call him the Great Mother, Divine Mother, Cosmic Mother, in all of her forms. The four forms that I've been experiencing most: Maheshwari, this absolute creative power; the vastness of worlds and universes; the ability to simply create from thought, from intention, and from impeccable source consciousness. Everything that is created from her consciousness is beautiful, is absolute truth. And then there's Ma Saraswati. She's the one who works through the laws of nature, through DNA, through laws that go beyond Newtonian physics, laws that determine a multi-dimensional presence. How can we be connected through the merkabah to all these multi-dimensional, multifarious worlds? Sacred geometry is her tool, and she works very closely with Maheshwari. And then there's Mahalakshmi, and she loves beauty. If Saraswati is about dance, light, sound, rhythm, Mahalakshmi is about beauty, forms. Everything in nature is beautiful because of her presence within all of it. Beauty for its own purpose. There's no purpose to beauty except itself. That's Mahalakshmi. Abundance, joy, playfulness, and frolic. And then there's the aspect of the Great Mother, Mahakali, the destroyer, the one who trims away, who takes down forms and systems that no longer serve, that hold back the next cycle of creation. And she too is essential, because without this aspect of death, there could be no rebirth. So what's dying is the illusion. What's dying is a conditioning we've carried based on fear, false evidence appearing real. And what's dying is ideas and beliefs about who we are that have kept us trapped in this illusion. And Mahakali comes along. She is the one who has a scythe to trim away, to tear down when necessary. And these four goddesses working together also reflect in the intelligence we call Mother Earth or Gaia. This extreme fertility, the interconnectedness of life. The cycle of life where death and birth move together in a wholeness. It's not an opposition, it's not a competition. It's only our ideas that make it so. And so these four goddesses together, we invoke now to create this bridge between earth and sky, between the worlds. To join what we've lost in our forgetfulness. To participate in the new creation where we can choose to co-create as conscious creators. This is our gift as humans, to be conscious creators, not opposed to the rest of nature, but with the Mother. So feel these bridges now being built. It's like it's being built in the collective. Notice in your own way what this feels like, or looks like, or sounds like. It's a great antakarana, a rainbow bridge. It's related to the merkabah of our entire planet. Because a merkabah is not limited to one dimension, it's multi-dimensional. It's a passageway from the physical worlds of form into the astral worlds beyond physical form. Each of these worlds has its own form, its own reality. We're simply building a bridge between them. And it's the great work of the Mother, supported by all these beautiful doorkeepers, including us as the human family of Gaia, who do this together. It takes a heart of courage, open to the divine, aware of who we are, powerful in our truth, in our knowing. It takes the unconditional love of the Mother pouring through us that fuels and energizes this bridge. And we open ourselves to that. It's not a linear bridge, so don't imagine that this has to look like a ladder. The merkabah has so many geometries, so intricate, so beautiful and vast. So many colors that are beyond the range that we, as human, with our human senses, can perceive fully. This is all the Rainbow Bridge, extending spherically out from beyond our physical Earth into other dimensions of Earth. Extending spherically out into the causal body of the Earth. Open to information flowing in from the center of our galaxy in this moment of transition. Open to the intent being received from primordial consciousness at the heart of all things. I see this rainbow bridge sort of like the Northern Lights, but so much grander. It travels along electromagnetic highways and superhighways. All things on Earth, all dimensions that we are linked with are electromagnetic. And these electromagnetic fields are vaster than we give them credit for, far beyond our Newtonian or even Einsteinian laws. The Aboriginal elders say that December 21st of last year was the activation of the magic box, the aspect of this rainbow bridge that was anchored beneath Uluru, the sacred mountain at the heart of Australia. And now the same antakarana is being anchored deep into the heart of the earth. And the rainbow serpent rises across this antakarana across this bridge. The rainbow serpent is connected to the Kundalini energy, the creative force at the heart of Gaia, the creative energy that's held latent at the heart of all things, including our own human self. It fills us with the power of co-creation. Upholding the laws of the universe, laws of reciprocity, laws of alchemy. Where involution and evolution become one. Descent of our spiritual being, that primordial presence, as we ascend through worlds of density, allowing this presence to anchor all the way into the physical worlds of matter. We become this rainbow bridge. And as we become this rainbow bridge, this bridge becomes available to all whenever needed. And especially these times of transition, especially when confronted with what humans call death. We invoke the presence of Azrael, Anubis, Yama, we invoke the great ferryman, Charon, and the dream walkers to build this glittering bridge, this beautiful multi-dimensional merkabah, and hold it in place. Throughout this transition that our planet is now making, to anchor it deeply and flawlessly in the morphogenetic fields of Gaia. We invoke our avataric presence to make it so. And so it is. So thank you. All things become possible as we make it so. The universe simply awaits our call. So thank you for joining me in this call. Welcome to share what you experienced from this meditation. So we're also inviting the Lahinur light which is the supramental force emanating from primordial consciousness, entering through all the dimensions of time space, deep into the inconscient, that place within the universe, that place within the earth, where all possibilities are held in potential. We tend to be afraid of the inconscient, of the underworld. But what this really means is simply that space where light is still to be revealed, where creation is still to be born. It's the womb of the universe. And as we open the door into this cosmic womb, expect to be surprised. New waves of creation are coming into form. And we are midwives for all this. Shan says, I experienced a crystalline field of light or body of light building around the earth and our physical body. Third coast, I saw a bridge to come meditate with you across the globe and multidimensionally with the enlightened ones. Mm. Thank you, If, Rando, Maria, Paula, Lisa, RD. Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of people when the intention is strong, when the support is there. If says so much peace, presence, and stillness. A big bubble of light came my way and surrounded me sitting in the middle. So the timing is very soon after the summer solstice. So the magic box was first opened in the winter solstice of 2020, and now 6 months later, the summer solstice of 2021. It's entering into a new scale of activation. So much love and peace, so beautiful. Yeah, thank you all for this shared experience. Third Coast says, I love your meditations and watched some of your older meditation videos earlier this week that were wonderful and powerful. They're archived in my YouTube channel, Kiara Windrider, in the videos section in the, I think it's a playlist called Meditations with Kiara. So it goes back to a year ago. Yeah, time is an illusion. I imagine them being live. So imagine this is already the new earth. We are there. We're here. All right, guys. So see you next week, Saturday. And meanwhile, don't forget the Tuesday evening in the US, which is early mornings in Europe. Age of Pandora broadcasts. Next week we have Mark and Phyllis Birkenhoff. Um, Mark has been clairvoyantly open all his life, and so he speaks about his relationship with galactic families and the journeys that we're making into the new earth. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. So blessings. Much love to you all. Bye.